Hello and welcome. And Lumi, thank you so much for joining me here tonight.
So happy to be here.
So we are approaching a new moon late tonight or tomorrow morning in some areas. So Lumi and I decided to come on tonight as this is the first interview to launch the RGA network. So we are on the auspices of a beautiful new moon in Scorpio trining Neptune. So I'm really honored today to introduce you to Lumi. So today Lumi and I are going to chat a little bit about who she is, her background in astrology, and really about the journey to astrology, becoming an astrologer, why we do this, what it's all about. So again, it's a Saturday night. Thanks for joining me. I wanted to catch the new moon and everything like that. So really appreciate you making the time.
I'm very happy and also very blessed to be a part of your networking group. And thank you again for inviting me. And this is just a wonderful opportunity. And I'm very happy to share my story with you all and how it all started with me. Literally an astrology book landed in my hands when I was 11 years old from a friend of mine, childhood friend. She simply asked me the question that everybody pretty much always is asked at one point in their life, what is your sign? And I was like, what does that mean? She's like, when's your birthday? And I just simply gave her my day, March 12th. And she's like, oh, you're Pisces like me. And I was like, what does that mean? And as soon as I was landing that book in my hand, I tell you, like, this was like a real catalyst of changes in my life. And I completely was immersed into the world of astrology and I was really inspired. And it just, like, for myself personally, I just love astrology because I was always a very sensitive person, very connected to people. I always studied people's behavioral patterns and like questioning things all the time and like really observing the world around me. And when I saw astrology and how it plays out through archetypes, I really was like tying in like to the daily situations that I would go through and I would see play out in astrology from what I studied over the years. So yeah, I mean, for myself as a child, I was pretty like, it was literally given to me by a term you'll probably hear at some point in your life, Jupiter return, my first one. So
yeah,
maybe
I just want to mention, this is so auspicious. So like the Jupiter return happens every 12 years. So I just also want to mention this is Jupiter return, right? We know it's a time of expansion and learning, and it happens when you're 12 and 24. So I think I probably met Lumi around her second Jupiter return.
Yes.
We started taking our classes in the astrology school, but you're saying you found out about astrology on your first Jupiter return. You must have been about 12 years old.
I was like almost 12. And I really tied this in much later in my life. And it was just really like such a huge mind-blowing realization where I was like, these like patterns really do play out in our lives. And it's just like, it's amazing how we are meant to be where we are right now, of course. But with astrology, I've discovered over the course of years, it really can be a real guiding tool in order to find the healing needed to navigate through your life more soundly. And it could explain reasons behind any obstacles you may come across. So yeah, like by the time my second Jupiter return happened, 24, that's when I stumbled upon your Twitter. I was like really drawn to your messages and I kind of like hung around a little bit just studying on my own, but then I decided to enroll in your school about a couple years later. Totally amazing interactive experience, your school. Like I took your beginners class and your intermediate class and it was just like so amazing. It instilled so much confidence within me. And then I even did a private mentorship with you. And it's just like, that was like the whole like gift wrapping of the experience.
Can I just say, like, I've been mentoring people for about 15 years. And the reason why I've invited Lumi to be our first person to launch the network with is because of literally how much I was blown away while I was mentoring her. Like, never had I mentored somebody from our program that was just basically astounding me every time we would look at a chart, the things that she would extract from it. And as an astrologer who's been doing this for so long, to have a student show me and teach me and shine a new light on the chart, I felt like every time I looked at the chart with Lumi, she was actually showing me a brand new orientation, a brand new perspective. Mm-hmm. And that was, in 2018. So I never forgot that mentorship. And I had in the back of my mind, well, if I ever launch anything like a network, I really have to reach out to Lumi. So of course, like when this came up here, it's 2020 right now. If you're watching this on YouTube and it's later, Lumi, you were the first person we contacted and, started our whole beta testing with this network. So, but that mentorship that you've just mentioned, I just wanted to let everybody know. I don't know, I think we did like 20 weeks together, and it was for me unforgettable because I was mostly so astounded with your pristine intuition. And not only that, but what was so remarkable about your work as an astrologer was your native sense of hierarchy of like what's important and what's not. And like that's the most challenging thing for baby astrologers because they tend to put like all the pieces in the pot. And I felt like you just could look at a chart and extract what's the centerpiece in the middle of the living room. So I was so impressed by your ability to do that throughout our mentorship, and as well your intuition, which was, I think, around that time, you weren't. I don't know if you were completely comfortable with the fact that you were an intuitive as well, but and
I was like very much into like learning all the nuances, and many astrologers go through this. Like we buy like hundreds of books. I mean, it goes without say. Like we want like an amazing collection. Rebecca, I see your bookshelf right now and mine. But I really like it because you could learn something from everyone, even from who you're talking to. Like even newbie astrologers, like they have something to add to the table as well. And I really feel like all together we could really advance our abilities like together as a collective. That's why I love astrology so much, because it really is interconnected with so many things. It's very rewarding to learn, and I love it. And I love teaching it.
Yes. So, yeah, and that's what happens in a reading. You are learning astrology too. So as Lumi gives a reading, she also teaches it through the process of the reading. And that's, I think that brings us to the next question. So curious about what it means to you to actually be an astrologer, to be doing this in the day-to-day. What is it? And also I'm curious what it is, what it means to you, and also why astrology in the first place for you? Why? I'm very curious.
It's such a real like multifaceted question, because I really feel like when you do come across astrology, you're basically facing a personality evaluation of yourself. Like you're going through like a self-realization process. Like I was really trying to understand, one thing, the meaning of life at a very young age. And I'm sure many people here probably often like ask that question early in their early part of their childhood or something like that. But I've always wanted to investigate things, like naturally for me. I'm Scorpio Rising, I'm, guilty. But, I love to really just understand things and see like the connections behind it. So once I discovered astrology, I really understood myself better. And I became more at peace as to the reasons why I had certain relationships, or I had certain situations where I didn't know how to cope with it. And when I realized and I made those connections, when I reflected backward, I actually healed from it quite a bit. And I love to bring that forward into the reading experience, especially because.
So you're saying that you would, once you learned astrology, you would look back at times in your life when there were certain challenging situations, and seeing the astrology of those times gave you a greater sense of peace.
Yes, absolutely. I came up with like it's like it explains everything, and it also opens the lines of communication to really go back if you want to make peace and resolution with that individual, or the situation that unfolded for you. Like you can kind of come up with some sort of peaceful path, basically. And I firmly believe in that, really. There's always a second chance in life. And in my case, astrology really is empowering in that sense. So that's where I want to bring it forth into clients and their experience, so they can come up with better strategies to deal with their situations and obstacles that they may come across as well.
And the way you speak about astrology, I'm hearing also a lot of water in the chart there. And because also I know Lumi as not only an accurate astrologer, but a counselor. And what I hear in your voice is from understanding how it has helped you, the compassion that it raises within you, and the desire to really empower others through those challenging times as well. So
Yeah.
it might be interesting to share with our audience too, how your actual chart, I'm curious how your chart plays in
Sure.
to your practice as an astrologer.
Please do. I love this. So for me to describe it, I
Yeah,
would
I
say
mean, I know a little bit about your chart, of course.
when it's
And
activated, like, just to like, you know, just to try to make it as comprehensive as possible for everybody to understand. There's an area in the house of the chart called the eighth house. I happen to have Jupiter there as well as Chiron. So first of all, we did cover Jupiter return twice around. That's when it activated my astrology studies and everything. And I just so happen to have Chiron there, where I'm always deeply questioning the mysteries of life, or also intimate relations and all those things. Like I've had like several relationships in the past where it was a little bit of friction. I didn't understand why. Like I had a struggle with you know, some feminine figures, and you know, once I realized the connection there, I was able to really understand it fully and heal from it. So that was pretty much my Chiron activated as well. And I've always had this kind of tension when it comes to understanding people and how they interrelate with each other and their toxic interactions and things. But then once I, you know, understood how astrology plays out, I was able to really bypass it and become the healer that I am right now. So
beautiful.
that's my Chiron story.
Yes, wow. And I feel like also that, you know, again, the wound as the gift, like you're known for your relationship astrology readings very much so. And I feel like since that was sort of your, I don't know, immersion, indoctrination in astrology during
Opposite
through the
ways,
motion
yes.
of relationships, you know, that
Yeah,
seems
I get
to,
a lot of relationship readings that come through. Not even relationship like partnerships. It could be relationships with a child, mother, siblings,
yeah.
anybody. Like that's pretty much it. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's Lumi also, you know, I think that the Piscean, the watery nature, I think you have a bit of Pisces and also Scorpio. Am I correct?
Scorpio rising, Pluto conjunct. So
Wow. Yeah. Um,
yeah.
yeah. So certainly there is that sense of sort of incisive depth, I feel like, that comes through in your readings, that is in your chart. And that's something that a beginner astrologer should be aware of, that your chart is also the kind of reader you are, and is the impact you create with others too. And I always felt that when I was mentoring Lumi through our process, that her, you know, Pluto on the ascendant in Scorpio really shone through. It's her ability to just drill down and say, we're going to do offshore drilling and get to the bottom of this no matter what it takes. And she will, you know, pull these things up and alchemize them into gold. So I was really overall and amazed by these abilities that she showed. So again, thrilled to have you as the first member of the RGA network. And if anybody who's interested at this point is interested in booking with Lumi or learning more about her, it is, if you're on YouTube watching this, in the link below, you will see information about Lumi. And if you're on Instagram, it's in the profile link where you can book with her through our network as well. So as far as, I want to ask you another question, Lumi, if that's okay. So as far as approaching the chart, I'm curious because, you know, I think that's also the biggest question that students have, like, how do I enter the chart? It's so much information. And I feel like that's something that, you know, as you know, you've studied for years in our school and everything, and in our mentorship. And so as students do, I feel like everyone sort of comes up with their own way that feels right to them, of diving into the chart and working through sessions with clients. And now I know you've already, you know, you graduated a few years ago. You've been doing this already full time for a few years. So I'm curious if you sort of got into a certain groove of chart reading and what that might look like.
My way of chart reading is very illustrative. I really like to create a storytelling element to it, just so the client can understand better. I usually love to tie in archetypes. As you know, I'll say like how the planets are pretty much interacting with each other, and I'll play it out into a situation that may unfold in their life. Most of the times it does come up intuitively when I do read their charts. They're like, how did you know that happened? I was like, I see it and how the planets really are playing out in the birth chart. So yes, like in that element, I do tell stories through birth chart readings, just so the client can really understand, and they'll open up much more so. And it keeps things much more interactive and open-ended for people.
Yeah, I feel like that gives the client a sense, another perspective on their life, and they can sort of anthropomorphize these parts of themselves, and step back from the local story and really see what's going on, and the story that they're playing out in their chart, and then the element of choice that I ultimately see with you as it's empowering that, if we can choose to stay on the merry-go-round or do this story in a different way. A lot of people say, oh, astrology, is it fated? Determinism, is it telling you exactly what's going to happen? What's your answer to the word fate and determinism associated with astrology? How do you see that? I mean, it's like the big elephant in the room that comes up, right?
I really see astrology as something where, yeah, we do have these patternings, but we're meant to break free from it. We do have some kind of fated goal in the astrology chart that really shines through, but it all matters with like, it all depends on like which road you take to get there. Sometimes you can go through the struggle and strife, or you can kind of lean into it and understand the struggle and strife, and it can make it easier for you to break free, pass through it to get to where you need to go. So in terms of fate, I mean, there is a certain element that you will likely tap into. However, the nuances in between have to be, I believe those are the free will aspects of it. Yeah. If that makes any sense, Rebecca.
It sounds like what you're saying is like there's certain pillars in the temple that we need to meet, and then like we play in the magic in between. Yeah.
Yeah, I do see like the major points, and that's really, that's how I see it intuitively as well. Whenever I'm reading the birth chart, I will pick up like some kind of gifts that come through with the client. I may even pick up sometimes with what they let go, probably from the past, like something that they once were taking up this career choice, but they bypassed and decide to go the other route. You could kind of go back and reflect on that, and you could decide to go with your old passions that you let go, and you could easily get to the end result more peacefully because of it. Sometimes you have to go back in order to make peace with it,
I love what you were saying before about the peace and the healing that can come through looking back at past events in your chart with a different frame of reference and with the astrological awareness. Like we could see it, we could be telling some friend about the misadventure. Oh, this horrible stuff is happening, and I was 18 and this and that. And we can have this ridiculous story, and it can be so like harrowing and painful, all these things happening. But then, you meet an astrologer or you Lumi and say, actually, the meaning of this, what this was about. And it's not making the experience any smaller, but it's giving this other larger perspective of our story that we've that story that became us. And that's why I say ridiculous, because sometimes we always meet people and then we realize, oh, that story is not us. We don't, and I think astrology can help us separate from those stories and events when we start to see and reorient them into our lives. And as you say, looking back at the past, as you take somebody into their first reading, sometimes that's exactly what they need. A lot of people I find don't necessarily want to say that first thing, but yet they might mention, oh, this thing happened. And just by looking back at the time, telling them like, oh, well, that's when Pluto was on your ascendant. Let's talk about that. And then sometimes they have such a wash of relief, like, oh, that's what it was. And, things start to make sense, right?
They look forward too much too, clients. I feel like for the first session, especially, maybe a little bit, but I think you have to really get down to the foundations of who you are first before you look to your future goals. Do you know what I mean?
I agree completely. We have to know ourselves before. It's not all about North Node. Where are we going?
I know, exactly.
I agree completely.
Look too forward. I'm like, hold on a second. Let's just say what happened. Like, what were the building pieces that were decided, or what happened? Like, what happened in your past that led you to where you are now? just in order for you to let go of that baggage that you had. Again,
Right.
I'm talking like I am a counselor. So, you know, I feel that like through looking at your birth chart story, you're going to be able to lessen the load on your back, and you'll be able to like have a future goal and more clarity in regards to what you want to do too.
Absolutely. That's such a good point. And our society is like almost on the drug of next, bigger, forward motion, more.
Yeah.
And it's like, especially Western, world, and especially America, right?
Yeah.
Like more, faster, future, bigger, more money, more this, more that. And is that really wise? And um, you know, I also find that too, when the clients come in, sometimes they just want to look ahead, but once you really show somebody that we're looking, exploring the DNA of who they are, then it becomes sort of this vastness that you see your connection with the all. And then perhaps there's an inherent trust that you can actually then know your next step because you know yourself and it's no longer a
Exactly.
stress or a question. I think that's the goal, instead of saying, oh, this is going to happen then. Although, sure, you and I can see patterns and events, but the goal, I feel like, too, like similar to you, it's
Mhm.
through the client knowing themselves, or anybody knowing themselves, to be able to feel confident about making those decisions too.
Yeah, I feel like people just want to fast forward through. I'm like, you have to just slow down and just be, just try to recognize what's going on with you right now that's making you want to fast forward at this moment too.
Mhm.
That's also another thing. Again, astrology could be so healing in that way because it's actually making you much more conscious of your decisions too. You'll probably see something where like impulsivity is in the horizon for you, a Mars transit, right? So you have to like backtrack and really see like what tools you have to take you on that trip. So that's also another thing to consider as well when you're getting a birth chart reading or transit reading. So yeah, in my approach, I'd say like deep dive into foundations, which is your birth chart reading, and then we follow through with a transit, like in line with your goals,
Yeah,
like from the starting point.
yeah,
That's my approach basically.
beautiful.
Yeah.
Um, So Lumi, thank you so much. I think again, if people are interested in working with Lumi, you can find her through the RGA network on our website. I'm also think, since right now, today is the 14th of November, 2020, we've just been through this very strange year, with all these planets in late Capricorn that are about to transition over into Aquarius. I don't know when people will be watching this video, but maybe we should speak a little bit on the moment you and I are in right now.
Yeah.
Um, so, I mean, because we're right at the precipice of the transition point, right? Right before Jupiter and Saturn join together in Aquarius
Hmm.
in December and start the brand new cycle. Um, so what are your thoughts on where we're at now in this transition into
I'm
Aquarius?
very thrilled that it's actually going to happen because I see more opportunity for advancements with, I'm probably too far reaching, but advancements with medicine. More technologies will be more innovative. And it's more air elements. So we're going to try to get our solutions in line through communication with other networks. Because I felt like for the last couple of years with all this earth energy, we're really cocooned into going through this cathartic stage. Like it was a complete chrysalis, and like really things weren't really clear. And now I feel like it's going to be a lot lighter in that sense, for me personally. And I'm like looking at the astral clock right now, and I'm looking forward to that happening. I swear. And I'm very thrilled for it to be in the last degrees. And even having Neptune, I wanted to mention this too, because Neptune's in later degree, as you know.
Mhm.
I really feel like the full effects of the Neptune and Pisces transit really took effect for the last couple of years. It wasn't really felt until last couple. Do you feel the same way?
Yes. Yeah, it's almost like that Uranus Pluto square overshadowed quite a bit, as it was throughout those years around 2012.
Oh,
I mean, we've been through like constant, it's like getting up, oh, there's another punch, getting up, no, and since like what, 2009 almost, I feel. It's some
I,
people are just feeling like they're starting to see the light at the
yeah, and
end
I
of
think
this.
Neptune is almost like, I mean, it is a mystical planet, and I feel like it's kind of the safety net that we needed in order for us to seek comfort in this situation, if that makes any sense to you, Rebecca.
So interesting you say that. I mean, I think that's certainly analogous to the popularization of all things spiritual, astrology, magic oriented. That's been happening, especially the last 5 years.
Yeah.
You know, with Neptune's placement in Pisces, the sort of openness that we've had collectively to the unseen world. And, you know, with the whole backdrop of the cardinal planets fighting with each other, it's been, you know, to give us another orientation to that. I don't know what we would have done without the Neptune and Pisces.
Yeah.
So it's really, sometimes we don't talk about that. You're so right, you know, in the whole conversation of the cap stack, you know, as we speak right now, there's 3 heavy hitter planets, Pluto, Saturn, Jupiter, in late degrees Capricorn. And, you know, all year people have been talking about the immense pressure cooker of this stellium in Capricorn. We're clearly at the end of an era. And it's interesting to see now that, you know, yeah, Joe Biden's elected at the moment and everything, that still we have some sort of changing of the guards as Jupiter and Saturn enter Aquarius in mid-December, you know,
Yes.
and set the tone for the next 20 years in Aquarius. So it's like collectively, I feel almost like we're moving to a new element. We are for the next few hundred years, as Jupiter and Saturn will meet every 20 years for the next few hundred years in air. And we're sort of at the end of the last few hundred years era where they were meeting in Earth, the Industrial Revolution, coal, oil, gas, pulling things off the ground.
It's like basically like those structures, as we always talked about past, like we're really much dissolving. And really, like the air is taking that message away into the collective, into understanding that these structures all structures have to end at some point. Yeah. You know, because we all advance as a collective. We can't be in the same frame of mind forever, because we're never going to progress as souls together and really help heal each other and help each other uplift. So it will be more collaborative, I feel. Also, that's okay. Even though Age of Aquarius isn't like officially now, because I heard it's like 2021, 25. I don't know. People never come up with this like.
Well, yeah, because the ages are like about 2,000 years, that they don't just change in a day. You know, it's sort of like a few hundred years changeover, I think.
Obviously, like the, you know, the air of Aquarius is here. Like people really do want to collaborate more and network with each other. Foreign relations are going to become much more open, I feel. So I've been hearing this ongoing for a while, and I have noticed within myself, I'm like, why are we in competition with each other? Why don't we just uplift each other at the same time? We can get so much more done. Like that's pretty much what Aquarius represents. That's why Venus and Aquarius talking too.
That's why we're doing this network too. I mean, this is the whole point of it, to uplift each other. And I mean, this is just, I was thinking about business a lot in general, and like the whole Capricorn structure of like, everybody's like, you know, climbing to get to the top. We hit the late stage capitalism, late stage Capricorn stellium, where, you know, when quarantine and COVID hit, everybody was just kicked back for the moment. They were like, oh, wow, I get to rest first. That was the initial reaction.
Yes.
Because we've been pushing ourselves so much. And it's like, well, why? Could we be doing things in a different way, right? So, and that's around the time, I think, personally, I started getting serious about the concept of this network and collaborating with others. And then the idea was like, what if we all collectively start to see business differently? And what if we have a system that we can globalize, where everybody, for whatever they're doing, is able to create a network? So the idea ultimately behind this was to make it a global kind of technology that anybody could use for their own in relation to this. I think it's, in general though, you're totally right. Like we're coming into a more balancing of the field with everything coming into Aquarius. And I guess that means like some sort of decentralization of power after everything was, you know, like the feudalism thing, that we're all coming into a more balanced space of, yeah, we're all human beings here. We have different color skin, different color hair, all of that.
As opposed to square, like the squareness of I'm not knocking Earth. It's, Earth is needed. We need to be in reality, of course. But, I'd say like we were too much of a square kind of like civilization for quite some time, but we weren't really circular. In other words, we weren't really sharing with each other. We weren't sharing our ideas with others in fear that we're going to be taken advantage of, or people are going to take what we have. Like, it's just like that kind of competitive edge. And I feel that now looking forward to the next age, it's going to actually be, for me personally, I think it's going to be wonderful in that way.
Yeah.
So I love Aquarius and that kind of energy alone collectively. Yeah. So it really does fit and merge with our society moving forward. I'm even noticed like clients talking to me nowadays, they're like, I just want to give back. Like, everybody's been talking to me about this lately. Like, even a client this morning, she was like, I feel like I have more to do for everybody else. And I was like, wow, they're actually waking up. And I love this. I love seeing that spark of inspiration happening. So it really does tie in.
Yeah, absolutely. It's so good to hear that from you too. I am also looking forward to the future. And I imagine it'll be something that we can't even envision, something that is new, and it's like Aquarius has to do with impregnating consciousness with new ideas in the unseen, in the airspace. I'm assuming space technologies as well, technology and better, the cloud, all of this is only going to grow. It's not going away. We're getting away from pulling on our natural resources from the earth, which is a good thing because the earth needs to restore itself. So yeah, it will be certainly interesting to see how this all plays out. So Lumi, would you like to add anything else?
Well, I'd say in the end, astrology, it's very healing. I'm just going to add that note one more time. And I really feel like because I discovered astrology at a young age, you could still be invested into astrology yourselves at any age. It's really insightful and very enlightening over time. I really see from discovering astrology, that magic is there. And there's so much magic around you that you can actually awaken within yourself because you're discovering this modality. So I just wanted to add that side note, and I'm really thrilled to share this with you all.
So beautiful, Lumi. And I'm completely in alignment with you as seeing astrology as a healing practice overall. But I guess I have Chiron on my MC, so that for me, it's a healing art as well. As really the perspective it brings. So Lumi, welcome to the RGA network, and it's an honor to have you here. Thank you for sticking with us through all that beta testing we did in the beginning and everything else. And
of course, I loved every moment because it's just a learning process, and I'm very patient, so no problem.
Yeah, Lumi's been so wonderful with us as we created this new technology really to lift up astrologers that have been in training for a while. So I can't wait to share your gifts with the world, and wish you all the best. If you're interested in a reading with Lumi, check out the link below. If you're here on YouTube again, if you're on the gram, it is in my profile link. Lumi, thanks again for taking the time tonight, and happy new moon.
Thank you, Rebecca. You too. Happy new moon.
Take care.
Bye-bye.